Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Tracy.
Mark DeCase,
Here.
Amanda Grubler, Kirsten Gustafson,
Here.
Willette Jones,
Here.
Calvin Lewis, Matthew Mackerer,
Here.
Lakia Walker.
Here. Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Second.
We are going to add the art club presentation back in, right?
We never did that.
Yes.
Okay, the student representative report.
Hi all, it's good to be back. I missed the last one. I was away. So last board meeting was the Tuesday before field day. I just want to announce that field day went well. Much to the chagrin of the seniors, the juniors took it and won it. Yeah, as for upcoming school-wide events, we have the Powder Puff, which I'm pretty sure is confirmed to be October 30th. All are invited to come, by the way. It's between the senior girls and the junior girls in a football match. So, a lot of fun. And the boys cheerlead. So.
Awesome.
As for extracurriculars and other things around the school, again, I'd like to thank you guys for accepting Model UN's trip to New York City at the beginning of November. And I'd like to say that the other two competitive academic teams, Envirothon and Mock Trial, have also started up. I would like to make maybe a comment on the fact that these academic teams have struggled with funding for buses. Model UN specifically has struggled a lot. They have to get down to the city in order to have these conferences. They happen twice a year, and sometimes they go to colleges and such. But they are academic teams. They compete, much like sports teams. So, yeah, yeah. Money for busing has always been kind of hard. Varsity Club will be doing a walkathon for breast cancer awareness. I'm inviting all of you board members and community members. I don't know the date on that, sorry. And in November, Varsity Club, in collaboration with National Honor Society, will be hosting their annual volleyball tournament. Teams pay to enter. It's a lot of fun. And our student tech crew has just begun. They'll be in the IT office, and they'll be completing their Dell certification, which is a lot of work, but definitely pays off. I've done it. That's it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tommy.
This is the retirement recognition. Okay, retirement recognition of AIDS unit. On behalf of the Board of Education and the Superintendent of Schools, we would like to recognize the retirement of the following teacher aides and thank them for the years of service to the Hudson City School District.
We have Gail Bucheri, 23 years of service. Joan Van Dusen, 27 years of service. And Catherine Ferrucci, 25 plus years of service.
We wish them good health and happiness in the years ahead. Congratulations. Presentation. Teaching and learning report, part 2.
Evening, everyone. So this evening, I will be sharing with you our data reports from the New York State Education Department. And we have the following objectives. With this presentation, we would like to provide you with a status of the performance of our students in the Hudson City School District by school building. We would also like to highlight the performance of disaggregated students on the New York State assessments, and also provide a brief summary and the findings of the data. As always, we are focused on these 6 key principles for school improvement: strengthening the instructional core, improving data-driven practices, promoting a positive, inclusive school environment for all stakeholders, strengthening instructional leadership capacity, having a tiered approach to school support and intervention, and increasing monitoring and accountability. So as you can see, the 6 keys tie to almost everything. So this data presentation really ties into all of these 6 key principles. As we go and as I show you the slides for the data presentation, I'd like you to keep something in mind as you're looking at this data. Now, I recognize that it's really difficult, especially for the public, to look at it at first glance from a screen that is so far away. But in your computers, you have the presentation copies, and you can take a look at them at your leisure. And start to think about what patterns and trends come to your mind when you take a look at the data and the graphs that I'm going to be presenting to you. What does this data show us about our district and our students' performance? That's the kind of thing that we want to continuously keep in the back of our minds. Let's start off with our district demographics. The total enrollment as of, when I did this, about 4 days ago, is 1,651 students. Out of the 1,651 students, we can see that 39% of our student population consists of white students. 18% of our students are Black. 21% of our students are Hispanic. 13% are considered multiracial. And 9% are considered Asian or from Pacific Islander descent. These are the subgroups that exist within our district. Our students, those 1,600 students, are spread out across this graph. In the y-axis, you see the percentage of students. At the end of each bar, it'll have the percentage for each of those categories. Economically disadvantaged students would be 65%. Not economically disadvantaged students are 35%. Students with disabilities consist of 21%. General education students, 79%. Our Ls consist of 8%. Those are our English language learners. Our non-Ls, non-English language learners, would be 92%. Our male students, 52%. Our female students, 48%. And students on temporary housing are 3%. Let's take a look at Montgomery C. Smith Elementary School. As I told you, I will present the data by school building. I also would like you to take notice of the fact that I am presenting data pre-COVID and post-COVID. There is a gap in the years, obviously. There is no data for the years 1920 and 2021. As you can see, in grade 3, we have the percentage of students at each bar. So the y-axis, again, is the percentage of students. The 17-18 bar is the dark blue. The orange bar is the 18-19 school year. The gray bar is the 21-22 school year. The yellow bar, 22-23. And the last bar, the light blue, is the 23-24. Please note that there is a difference between our grade 3, our grade 4, and our grade 5 data. So you can see in grade 5, our students post-COVID, in the year 2023, 15% of our students in grade 5 were proficient in reading, and that includes writing as well, so it's ELA, 15%. The previous year was 22, in the 22-23 school year was 23%. So there was a drop there in the scores. The highest score, as you can see, among all these bar graphs, was in grade 3 in the year 18-19 with 34%. So over the course of these years, our students' performance has not exceeded 35% in ELA. These are the math results. The bars represent, again, the years. At the end of the bar, that's the percentage. So the y-axis is the percentage. Again, in mathematics, our students have not reached proficiency level more than 35%. It's always been lower than 35%. In grade 5, this past year, 21% of our students scored proficient. That's a drop from the previous year of 30%. Again, you have the pre-COVID data and the post-COVID. Hudson Junior High School. Same thing, pre-COVID, post-COVID. As you can see, there was improvement in the scores from grade 7 through grade 8 in the following years. 2021, 22, 2022, 23, that was the highest actually. With 34, it went to 49%. And in 2023, 24, from 31 to 35%. Again, these are different grade levels, so you have to consider that. This, for example, the 2022-23 would be the current last year's score, okay? So relatively speaking, this class right here improved by 4 percentage points. Because these students now are in 8th grade. Now these students are actually in 9th grade. Math results, again, for the grade 6, 7, and 8. Here is a gap. There is a really big gap. As you can see, in 2022-23, our grade 7 students, when they reach the grade 8, they drop by 5 points. In 2023-24, grade 7, which is now our grade 8 students, are at 11 points, percentage points. So there's quite a drastic drop in scores. There's also a quite drastic drop in scores, performance that went up pre-COVID in grade 8, which is good to celebrate. But as you can see that it varies. There are different scores by year and depending on the grade. The most stagnant was 21, 22, 22, 23, 23, 24 in these bars here. post-COVID for math. These are the science results. Again, pre-COVID and post-COVID. Grade 4, now I have to make a distinction because the science test was not offered at one of the years, and I'll show you the other graph. Last year was offered to 5th graders, not 4th graders. So in the year 17-18 is the blue graph. In the year 18-19 is the orange graph. And the gray graph is the bar graph is the 21-22 school year. As you can see, there was a drop in grades 4 from pre-COVID, post-COVID, and also in pre-COVID, post-COVID in grade 8. This is when the test was offered to the 5th graders. None of the students scored proficient last year. There was no data for 22-23 because the test was not offered. In grade 8, as you can see, the students dropped from 40 to 23%. These are the elementary ELA results by demographics from 2021 to 2024. So we're going to leave the pre and post-COVID now, and now we're going to look at the data by subgroups. This is the Gen Ed as compared to the students with disabilities. As you can see, in the 3 years in Gen Ed, the students that had the most gains were in the year 2022-23. It did go down the following, but as you can see, for our students with disabilities, there's a drastic difference there. Big gap in performance. None of the students in grade 4 and grade 5 that are classified as students with a disability have been able to score proficiently in ELA. Let's look at the female versus male. Again, it shows from year to year, from grade to grade. The percentage is the y-axis. As you can see, in grade 5, the students had, in grade 5, 21% last year, and now they are at 23, 24, they're at 5%. Male students. The female students kind of remain stagnant from 2021, 22 to 23, 24. These are our L's and non-L's. So our English language learners, just like the students with disabilities, have some zeros in their graph. As you can see, for grade 5, our L's, the year that they scored or had a performance that was higher than 15% was grade 4 in the year 22-23. And then the following year, in grade 5, they dropped. And there was no score, or score 0, actually, for those years that you see on the graph. For our students that are not L's, they had a percentage score that was practically stagnant, with the highest level being 31% at some point for grade 3 and 4. Grade 5, as you can see, has dropped from last year to this year. When I say this year, this past year. Here are students that are economically disadvantaged as compared to not economically disadvantaged students. As you can see, there are lots of ups and downs again. We see here that the highest, grade 4 in the year 2021 at 26% for our economically disadvantaged students. Again, no score goes higher than 30%. And here in grade 4, not economically disadvantaged, they almost reached 50%. So that's something that there is a stark difference here for our economically disadvantaged students. I draw your attention to this particular one. We're going from 35 to 24%. Now, you will see now the disaggregation by ethnicity. And this is grade 3. Again, those 3 years, with the dark blue being our Black students, the orange being our Hispanic students, the gray bars are represented by the Asian Pacific Islander students, the yellow bars are our white students, and the light blue are our multiracial students. So it is really interesting to see how our Black students in 2023, 2024 reach 45%. However, I'd like to point something out to you. Sometimes when you look at data, you got to look at how many students tested, and then how many students, the percentage of students that tested, how many of those students reach proficiency level. So here, there might have been 10 students, okay? And out of those 10 students, 45% of them scored at proficient level. So we have to make that distinction. It depends on the amount of students. This is our grade 4. I should point out that our multiracial students at the highest, and again, we got to go by the number of students. It was too much information for me to put actually the number of students per bar graph, so it's hard to tell from just looking at it, but just know that when you're talking about percentages, you got to keep in mind the N. What is the number of students that actually fall under that category? And grade 5. There is no bar that goes higher than 40. So y-axis again, percentage of students. And in this case, we have a 0, which is our Hispanic students. None of our Hispanic students scored at proficient level in 23-24. These are our elementary math results by demographics from 2021 to 2024. So the ones that we just discussed were the ELA. The ones that we're discussing now are the math. Again, huge discrepancy between the general ed population and our students with disabilities. As you can see, there are many graphs here, many years for that students have a score of 0 versus our general ed population. I should also point out that for this past academic year, our general ed population, as you can see, went up to 25% versus our students with disabilities, 5%. These are our female and male disaggregation of students. So our males are doing slightly better in grade 5. And our girls in the past year in grade 4 did better than, the males did better in 2023, 24 than the females. It is interesting also to see that the blue, as compared to the orange, you see an increase. So the blue from one year to the next, so from 21, 22 to the next year, 22, 23, there was an increase. So you can see that in this bar graph here, chart. And then you can see it here as well. And this was a real big gain. Something to celebrate for our male students. These are our English language learners as compared to our non-English language learners. Again, we see some zeros here for our English language learners as compared to our non-English language learners. We also see that our grade 5 students, our Ls, are significantly lower than our grade 5 students, non-Ls. These are our economically disadvantaged versus our not economically disadvantaged students. So our students in grade 5, as you can see, in the year 2023-24, not economically disadvantaged were at a higher percentage than our economically disadvantaged students. There are many factors that influence that. I should also point out that in grade 4, there's a really big increase here, with 57% of our not economically disadvantaged students scoring at proficient levels in math, versus our economically disadvantaged students. So it's pretty consistent there in terms of how high it is, right? One being more than the other, of course, but there was a big increase. Now, this is by grade levels and years. Again, the numbers on the left represent the percentage of students. And as you can see here, these 3 subgroups were about the same. Again, the black students are the dark blue. Hispanic students are the orange. The gray is represented the Asian Pacific Islander students. The yellow would be our white students. And then the light blue would be our multiracial students. As you can see from year to year, in the year 2021, 22, the highest performing group was our Asian Pacific Islander, versus the following year in 2022-23, our white students surpassed. And then you see also in 2023-24, keeping in mind again how many students took the test. 40% were black, 37% were Hispanic, and the rest of the graph is there in grade 3. So this is grade 3 only. Grade 4, as you can see, there is a big bar graph here, bar representation here for our Asian Pacific Islander students are consistently surpassing in grade 4 their peers, their black peers, their Hispanic peers, their white peers, and their multiracial peers. This is grade 5. As you can see here, 60% of the students, the Asian Pacific Islander students in grade 5, scored at 60%. And as you can see, it sort of dropped to 20% in 23-24. Overall, there was a drop in the scores. This is the junior high school ELA results by demographics. Our Gen Ed population versus our students with disabilities. So I showed you in ELA and math at the elementary level, our Gen Ed students versus our students with disabilities. Big gap. As you can see, it's consistent with what you saw for the elementary level. Same thing for the junior high school. Our students with disabilities struggled with these state assessments in grade 6, in grade 7 and in grade 8. As opposed to the general ed students, there was an increase from the math in the general population, in the ELA population, in the elementary school. So when they get to elementary school, those 5th graders who are now 6th graders here in 23-24 scored at 51%. So something happens when they come to the junior high school. It might be growth, it might be, maturity, I don't know. It might be so many factors. We can't tell. These are numbers. In order for us to tell, we would have to dig deeper into the data and kind of do like a qualitative analysis of the data. These are our female students versus our male students. And our L students versus our not L students. Again, consistent with the ELA from the elementary school with some zeros for the L students versus the not L students that had proficiency levels at 30, 31, 35, 31. In the year 22-23, grade 8 had a 54%, and there was a drop in grade 8 to the following year. These are our economically disadvantaged students versus our not economically disadvantaged students. Same thing holds true. The different values for the graph for each of the bars. Noting that in 1 year, for example, in 23-24, our economically disadvantaged students are scoring lower in grade 8 than in grade 8 as compared to their not economically disadvantaged peers. This is our grade 6 data by ethnicity. So these students here, you can see that the Asian Pacific Islander and the white students are doing far better than our Black Hispanic students and our multiracial students. Same holds true for this year, except for our white students took a little dip there. And the year 21-22, you can see the same type of analysis. Grade 7, our students for the year 23-24, you can see that students that scored above 50% were our Asian Pacific Islanders and our multiracial students. The rest of the students kind of are at the same level. This is our grade 8. Again, by ethnicity. And you see the same pattern. So remember that essential question I said, keep it in the back of your mind. What patterns do you see? What trends do you see from the data? And we can see that the Asian Pacific Islanders and the white students are surpassing their peers, their white peers, their multiracial peers, Hispanic and Black. These are the math results by demographics, again. We see a pattern, again, with our zeros here in our gen ed population over here versus our students with disabilities. Again, the y-axis represents the percentage of students. Female versus male students. So there was no change here from 1 year to the next. And then here in grade 8, you can see that in 22-23 to 23-24, there was a drop in our female results, the performance of our female students. These are our Ls, English language learners, versus our non-English language learners. In grade 8, as you can see, 23, 24, the bar is showing that L students were at 33%, and our non-L, so they actually did better than our grade 8 students that are non-L. And again, I must emphasize the number of students that, that were tested versus non-tested students. And our economically disadvantaged students versus our not economically disadvantaged students. There is no bar associated with 21, 22 here, which could mean various things. It could mean that the students at this, in the 21, 22 in grade 8 were not tested. It could mean that the scores are more like a 0 or non-existent or are not economically disadvantaged. Grade 6, as you can see, the two bars that stand out, again, are the Asian Pacific Islander and white. And then the students that are lagging behind are the Black, Hispanic, multiracial students. This is grade 7, same pattern. 56% in 23-24, the Asian Pacific Islanders scored proficiently as compared to their peers, which, well, you see the percentage scores there. I should mention that in 2022-23, 0% of the students in grade 7 scored proficient versus the following year, our multiracial students went up by 11, so 11% of them scored proficient. These are the grade 8 results. Math. Again, you see a huge discrepancy and gap in scores, with many of the ethnicities represented here not scoring at all proficient. Let's talk about the senior high school. These are the Regents results by subject. As you can see, one of the things that we need to pay attention to is obviously the English, because as students are learning how to read and go into the junior high school, etc. This particular Regents, which is offered in 11th grade, it's very important. Students need to pass that Regents in order to graduate. They are also by subject. So you can see here Algebra 1 as compared to Geometry and Algebra 2. And then you have your Science, and then you have your Social Studies classes. By year, so again, the percentage of students that scored for the U.S. history in 1 year, in the year 21-22 was 0. And it could be that perhaps at that particular year, I recall, they didn't offer the U.S. history Regents because of a crisis, a tragedy that occurred in Buffalo. So that Regents was not offered. And that's why you see a 0 there. But for the most part, the scores are surpassing 50%, which is something that we need to pay attention to, like when the students go from the elementary to the junior high to the high school. How are they faring, right? How are they scoring on their Regents exams as compared to how they did in the elementary school or junior high? Here are the Regents results, again, by subject. Oops, I'm so repeat. Okay, here's the Algebra 1. And these are by ethnicity. So many bars here. I apologize for the, it's all kind of together. But let's note that our Black students in 23-24 are having these results, which are lower as compared to their peers. The same holds true for Algebra 1 in 2022-23 and our Hispanic students. So they are the lowest scoring, and here in 21-22 our L's and our Black students and our Hispanic students, as compared to the Asian Pacific Islander, 73% here, 59% here, and 56% here. These are our geometry results. So there are some bars here that are 100% in our students with disabilities. And so again, let me just say that there was an instance where 2 students took the test. Both of them scored really well on the test. So 100% of them scored proficiently, right? So you gotta keep in mind that it varies. How many students took the test? English. So remember the data that you saw for ELA in the lower grades? We should point out, something happens when they come to the high school. The scores for the most part are high. And so, as compared to some subgroups though, let's look at this subgroup right here, which are our L's. This subgroup right here, which are our students with disabilities. So that's consistent with the graphs that we saw before. Right? That's a huge gap that they have to make up all of that. They had zeros, and now when they get to the high school, they have to make up all of that to get to where they are right now. As you can see, the same here, except the Black students here in 21-22 and our L students struggled the most. And in here, the 3 lowest performing groups were, again, our L's, our Black students, and our Hispanic students, with the highest being our multiracial students and Asian Pacific Islanders and our white students. World history. Again, there's a discrepancy here with our L's every single year as compared to their peers, other ethnic groups, and the same holds true for our students with disabilities and our Black students in each of the years. The green represents a Hispanic, so those are lower too. This is our living environment by year, percentage of students that scored proficiently. So as you can see, again, the same pattern, these bar graphs here, the 45, which corresponds with our L's, the yellow are not L's, the light blue are our Blacks, and the green are Hispanic. Lowest performing versus the highest performing. Okay, the same over here, and the same over here. Earth science. So these are the results from 23-24 as compared to 22-23 again in 21-22. And you can see here, we have no data for this particular subgroup, which is our L's. And there might be various reasons for that. It might be that we don't have any recorded L's that took the test last year. So there's no data for it. Advanced placement. So in order for us to analyze advanced placement, let's take a look at our enrollment for each of the grade levels. This pie shows that the blue represents our 9th graders, so we have 146 9th graders. Our 10th graders are 130. Our 11th graders, 112. And our 12th graders are 107. Keep that in mind when you see the advanced placement students that took the test. So number of students taking the AP exams by subjects. So we offered 4 AP exams. Calculus, 2 students took the test. Here, about 15 students took the test, US history test, the world history test, and the environmental science test. The number of students by race that took the AP exams. None of our Hispanic students took the AP exams. Our multiracial students, they took the US history, 2 of them, and then 1 student took the environmental science. As you can see that the Asian Pacific Islanders and white students are the most that took the tests, these tests. This one being a single bar represents the result, or the number of students that took that particular, from that ethnicity, that took all of the exams. So, you know, as we take a look at the enrollment, and now we're taking a look at the percent of students that passed. Well, first of all, if I go back to this, remember I said most of the enrollment for each grade level surpasses 100. And these are the number of students that are taking AP exams. These are the percent of students that are passing the AP exam. So those 2 kids that took the AP exam in calculus passed it. So 100% of them passed. So when we look at this data, we can't say, you know, oh, we're doing really well. We have to say 2 students took the test, 2 students passed the test, therefore 100% of them scored proficiently. So the percent passing versus the number. The lowest being environmental science. So here's a summary, just capturing the main points of what you saw today. So this data indicates that at the elementary level, grades 3 to 5 in both ELA and math, results have been stagnant pre-COVID and post-COVID. We also see that the data indicates that science at both the elementary and the junior high school levels, results have drastically gone down from pre-COVID to post-COVID times. The data also indicates that there's a gap in performance between our general education students and students with disabilities in grades 3 to 8 in both ELA and math. The data indicates that all students in grades 3 to 8 were not successful in reaching more than 35% proficiency in mathematics. This is more apparent in grade 8. The data also indicates that all students in grades 3 to 8 were slightly more successful in ELA when they reached the junior high school levels, and I should say high school as well. The data also indicates that there's a gap in performance in the Algebra 1 and Geometry regions as compared to other regions. Our L, Blacks, and Hispanic students lag behind their white and Asian Pacific Islander peers in most of the region's exams. We can also summarize from the data that the number of students taking AP exams are between 2 for calculus and 17 for US history, significantly lower than the total enrollment for each grade level. The number of Black, Hispanic, and multiracial students are significantly lower than Asian Pacific Islander and white students that participate in AP exams. And lastly, most students who participated in AP exams are of Asian Pacific Islander and white descent. Do you have any questions?
I don't have a question, I just have a comment. Our school doesn't offer AP Calculus as a course, we offer a college calculus course, and those two students challenged the AP course, or AP test on self-study. So, yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
I don't have a question, I guess it's a statement. As you were going through the data, I just thought about, how I think if we were to ask like everyone in this room, like what is one of the positive things about this district, we will all say diversity. And I've heard it so many times where we talk about diversity as being like our positive thing for this particular district. And I think we fail to realize this is diversity. We think about diversity, and a lot of times we just think about whether it's just racial or ethnicity diversity. But this data, to me, shows me diversity at its fullness. And it's transparent, and it shows the reality of what we need, where the gaps are, where our students are performing high and where they're performing low, and where there are gaps and issues where we have to address, and we can no longer ignore, because our students are suffering, and they're not meeting the goals, and they're not meeting the standards, and they're missing a lot. And if we continue to do what we've been doing before, we're gonna get the same results. And so I just wanted to say thank you for pointing this out. And so the next time when we're asked, what is the positive things about this district, we have to keep in mind, this is the reality of diversity. It's different ethnicities, it's beyond different race, and it's different culturally, it's different socioeconomic status, it's different whether you're an English speaker or a non-English speaker. It's different and across the board. And this is the true picture of our district, and this is a true picture of what diversity looks like.
Thank you.
Can you speak at all to the way Hudson scores compare to national trends? So with the challenges that we face in math and ELA, how are those comparing across the nation roughly? Do you have time to look at that at all?
So, I have not, but that's something that I could definitely compare to a national level, by subgroups, grade levels, et cetera, the way that I presented it here. I don't want to misinform the public or you, the board, about anything, that would be a result of that, yeah.
Yeah, I realize
So-
I didn't offer.
So,
that might be much.
I do know, though, that because we are transitioning from the Common Core standards to the Next Gen standards, and that transition happened over time from 2017, which is when the Common Core ceased to exist, and the Next Gen standards were phasing in, right? We needed to transform our curriculum and all of that. That might have impacted the results that we see, but we really don't know until we dig deeper into the data. We have to really take an approach of taking this and saying, okay, this is part of the puzzle. What are the other parts of the puzzle that we have to look at? Whether it's curriculum, instructional practices, PD, support for teachers, et cetera. So those are the kinds of things that when we look at this, we kind of think about. But we can't ignore the fact that, right, the data is the data. And so when we look at these numbers, it is pointing to a specific pattern and a trend that we're seeing over the course of not 3 years alone, but pre-COVID, post-COVID.
I do want to say thank you for amassing such a large quantity of data and breaking it down in so many
Yeah,
diverse ways.
you're welcome, thank you. Yes.
I know grades 3 through 8, families can opt out of the state testing. Is there a general trend that you see, like, are more older students opting out, younger students? I know you don't have it all in front of you, but just curious.
Right, I don't have the actual numbers of students that opted
Yeah.
out, but that is something that students, families have a right to. And they have voiced that when students come to the school and the time that we take, that the tests are being administered. We may be confronted with a letter from a parent saying, I don't want my child taking the test. So that's why when we look at this data, whether you go to the New York State website, education website, or you look at this data, you think about how many students tested versus how many students did not test. The NYSEG, the New York State Education Department requires us to test at least 95%, I believe, of students per grade level. So if they're opting out, that's going to affect our accountability. Meaning that a school may be deemed in need of improvement because of the numbers of students that are opting out of the test. So though the parents have a right, ultimately it kind of hurts us in a way.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. And you mentioned the NYSED website, which I just want to mention, are great tools on there where you can
Yes.
look at our district and you can pull up all the data and it compares it to statewide averages.
Oh, great. Yes.
It doesn't have 23, 24 yet, but
Yes.
up until last
Yeah, I
year.
gave you the latest.
Yeah, great, thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I think the national data would be interesting,
Sure.
but do we have a defined peer group? Is there a set of schools we're compared against by the state?
That's an interesting question. I could say that perhaps schools that have the same demographics that we do and the same size. So, right? So, neighboring districts that would have that's something to look at. And whether that is something that we could compare to. Certainly by using the NYSED website, we can look at the other districts' test scores and compare. But yes, that is an interesting fact, that it is possible to see whether it is representative of a larger problem. Are we allowed to? I don't know.
Was there?
The public.
Um,
Somebody raised their hand, I don't know if you're allowed to.
Yeah, you have to sign up for public comment. Thank you. Great, thank you very much.
No, questions to the board?
No, question for you.
Can you sign up for the public comment period, please? Thank you.
I think you emphasized concern over AP participation. I guess what barriers do we have to that we can? What barriers are there that we can break, I guess, for that?
So, I've been in the Hudson City School District for 3 months.
Yeah.
I would like to explore that. I want to know why there are such lower numbers of students that are taking the AP classes. Perhaps there's even more information and, that the audience may have. I see some counselors, teachers, etc. So having an approach of, okay, let's ask why that is, what could be the barriers that students are confronting when taking AP courses or AP exams. The important thing about AP is that students that sit on an AP class should all be taking the exam, right? So when we think about the AP classes, how big of an enrollment is there in those AP classes? And are students being prepared for the rigor of those classes? Because obviously it's going to be rigorous. So when we're talking about high school regions and the other subject tests that happen at the lower grade levels, are our students being prepared in the same manner? Is the level and the rigor being prepared to prepare our students for AP college level courses, so to speak? So that's something to definitely look at. What could be the barriers? It could be curriculum, it could be instruction, it could be many things that affect that. Opportunities for students to be a part of those courses or lack thereof. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question, just kind of piggybacking off of the option that parents had to pass in regards to their student taking the exam. Are they aware necessarily of the impact that it could have on those numbers?
So I'm gonna make it a mission of mine that when it's time for testing, that there's communication, right?
Yeah.
To families about the impact that refraining from your student taking the exams would have on our district. You know, we always want what's best for students, and families, obviously, they know their children best. We can't compete with that. If there is a question or something that we can answer to alleviate some of the concerns that parents have, I want to provide those opportunities where there are forums where they can come and ask questions, meetings that we can have, to clarify some of the misconceptions that may be out there. I think that's important. I don't know if it has occurred in the past. Like I said, I've been here 3 months, but it is definitely my intention to educate our families as much as possible about our exams.
Okay.
Thank you. You're welcome. Yes.
I'd like to make a comment on my personal positive experience with the AP courses offered in our district. Though limited, I have had, this has probably been the best instruction I've ever received in my life from the 2 AP courses, both global and US history. And the data shows that students are passing these exams. I think every class had an over 50% pass rate for a course that does not match the rigor of previously offered courses. These AP courses are helpful and much more, I think, I know that the AP courses do a fantastic job of also preparing students for the Regencies. And I just want to say that I know there has been discussion before in the past of the low enrollment in AP courses and how their role in our school district, and if they should have a role at all. I know that's been discussed. But I just want to say that my personal experience has been very positive and very helpful.
Thank you so much for your perspective.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
thank you. Nice. Thank you very much.
Mr. Still over here, Mr. Gentleman over here.
Oh, yeah, there's a form over at the front, a blue form to sign up for the speakers. Thank you.
The art presentation.
Right now?
Yeah.
Love it. All right. Good evening. Hi. I'm Katie Rogers. I get out of this camera. I'm the art teacher at the junior high school. Last year was my first year here, and I started the art club in the spring, and it had a huge turnout. And this year, I'm expecting to have more students join us. There's a lot of 7th graders right now, and I'm trying to get a larger 6th grade group to come in since they're new to school. Since we're starting in the fall, I'm hoping to do some fundraising for the art club, have students work with ceramics, and raise funds for buses for hopefully to go to field trips and studios in Hudson and in Catskill for artists who are working in the community. What else? It's a really great place for students to wind down at the end of the day. Also builds social, emotional skills. I have a few students from the special ed class who came at the end of school last year, and they got to meet new peers and make new friends. It's a really good club. You should stop by, say hi if you're in the building. And yeah, I heard it was already approved, so thank you. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
So yeah, that's our club.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Whole business.
Yeah, we have policy 1120R. Do we feel good about it? Cool. So I make a motion to approve amended policy 1120R, school district records regulation.
Second.
All in favor?
At this time, we do not need to have an early executive. I'd like to make a motion to accept personnel items A through J.
Second.
All in favor? Welcome, new staff.
So last time we had a board meeting, Ms. Brooks, our new Executive Director of Human Resources, is not with us. So tonight she is, and so I'd like to introduce you to Ms. Shantae Brooks, our new Executive Director of Human Resources.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to convene into the public comment period of our meeting. Although state law does not require us to hold a public comment period, we have chosen to do so because we believe it's crucial for us to hear from our community members about their concerns and issues. Having said that, please note that the board is here to listen. The public comment period is not designed to be a discussion. Accordingly, please do not expect the board to respond to your concerns or questions tonight. This is because we take your concerns and questions seriously and want sufficient time to process and research issues if need be. Under state and federal privacy laws, we are unable to entertain any comments or questions about school personnel. On this matter, we ask you to go through the appropriate administrative channels. Each speaker is given 3 minutes.
Jen Daly?
Hi. It's okay if I sit. I've been standing all day. I don't really want to be on camera either.
You will be.
Oh, I don't want to be. Because at the back of my head. All right. So I do have, some questions and concerns. And I sit here, and I'm sure everyone knows, I sit here as an educator. I work in a Title I school district, and I am inundated with data all the time. And honestly, we look at data, and we know it's there, but we still go to our classrooms every day, and we work with each and every single one of our students, regardless of who they are, where they come from, to the best of our ability. It is soul crushing when I hear data being presented and everything is broken down. And as a special educator, I keep hearing over and over again, special ed, not proficient in ELA. They're not proficient in math. We have to keep in mind that these are students that receive accommodations. And some of these students are in 12-1-1 placement, maybe 15-1-1 placement, and they're still required to take these exams. When these lovely ELL students come to our country and they come to our schools and they start learning and they're so excited to learn, they're also required to take these state tests. We have entering, emerging, transitioning, expanding, commanding. So I'm interested to know in the data where that's broken down also. Were these students who were failing and not doing well and not proficient, were they entering? Because that makes sense to me, because they're just learning our language. Same thing with the kids from the 12-1-1 program. They're trying their hardest, but these are kids who get tests read to them, most likely. And so they're struggling, obviously, when they're used to having tests read to them all the time. And as you can see, this is something I'm so passionate about because I'm a special ed teacher, and this is always something that hurts me, to see these kids struggle in these state tests that we place so much on. Can't we look at things like a growth model? Did we see that student grow a little bit? Did their reading level go up just the smallest amount? Did they learn how to write a short response with as little assistance as possible? These are the things that I look at as an educator, and these are the things that we should all be looking at also. And I had something else completely that I was going to say tonight, but as I'm sitting here listening, and I know that as a teacher, other teachers who probably work in this district are sitting here thinking, I really hope that they're not thinking that this is my fault, that these kids are failing. And hopefully someone's thinking, these are the failed policies that have been placed down, top down. Oh, I love that trickle down. I always keep saying that. From state ed, and they keep coming down. You know, we're just here doing our job and trying our hardest to do it. But, oh, people also forget about puberty. 7th graders, puberty. 8th graders, puberty. 6th graders. And I'm sorry, but male and female brains develop differently also. And that also should be in the data too. I know I heard the buzzer go off. But are we also looking at that? That when they're coming into the middle school, I know that I always say I'm teaching them to respect each other and to work with other children and to kind of grow into their bodies, because they are way different, obviously, at the middle school than they are at the primary school and at the high school. So I think that should be looked at also. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
Kristen Bielfeldt? Did I say it right?
You did, good job. No. Good evening. For those who don't know me, I am Kristen Bielefeld, a proud Hudson alumna and a parent of 2 children currently in the elementary school. Additionally, I serve on the board of directors for the McCaden Theater in Chatham. For those on the school board who may not know, the McCaden Theater is a highly esteemed professional theater for the past 55 years. I mention this because my fellow McCaden board members and I are very aware of various school districts and their drama clubs. We stay informed about the productions the schools are presenting and the numbers of children involved, among other details. Recently, I have heard murmurs regarding the Hudson Drama Club facing resistance from the administration. While this did not shock me, I had hoped that the administration would ultimately recognize the importance of providing resources and time to the dedicated staff and community members who guide our children in their performances. Last year, 70 3rd to 5th graders participated in their production of The Lion King, which everyone enjoyed thoroughly. And since the creation of the Drama Club in 2012, the participation has flourished. With a grant application for funding support due in just 2 days, it seems very nonsensical for Dr. Pennyman and Dr. Courtwright-Torres to ignore multiple requests for a meeting or discussion to get this grant in. And this grant has been used yearly to support the Drama Club along with the Columbia County Youth Theater. Given the district's known financial issues, why aren't you prioritizing this grant for a program that has positively impacted so many children over the past years? With numerous community members expressing their dissatisfaction with this administration, one reasonably would expect them to take action and demonstrate a genuine commitment to the well-being of our children, rather than merely stating their intentions without any follow-through. There's a quote from a brilliant Shakespeare play that comes to mind whenever I hear the words transparency coming out of Dr. Pennyman's mouth or this administration's mouth. The lady doth protest too much, methinks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rocky Green.
I too like to sit down, and I'm sorry I'm cold, so my hands are going back and forth. I just want to give some back information with AP. I'm also the advanced placement coordinator. Some of the data is a bit apples and oranges, and this is what I mean. As Tommy said, the 2 young ladies challenged the exam, so only 2 students will take that. I have current students now who are going to challenge an AP government exam. So that number will be low because they're the only 2 taking it. Every August, I have to go into what they call the Advanced Placement Registration Ordering Portal called April, where I set up classes for the teachers. And our system is set up, if you are in the AP class, you join it, and then you take the exam. You have to take it. So if you have a year where you say, like, no certain subgroup took that exam, it could be that the students did not select the class. One thing I'll say about AP is that it does encourage diversity, and there's some students that do not choose AP exams. And I don't know if it's a barrier, prior to COVID, I used to attend college board conferences, and the state of AP, as Tommy said, the overall enrollment is declining because students are opting to take more college level courses where they can get 3 college courses if they get a certain grade. With AP, you will take the exam, but if you get a 3 or higher, that denotes proficiency. However, depending on what college you apply to, they will decide if they would give you college credit. Some will say you need a 4 or 5. So some students will say, I don't think I want to take AP, I'd rather take this college course where I can get 3 college credits. So it's a little bit of apples and oranges when you look at the data. The other thing I would say that I think we should celebrate with AP is that we have a number of students who are AP scholars. That means that they score 3 or higher on 3 AP exams, and every year I send a scholar roster. And with Dr. Corray being new, she will get that information at the end of the year like I used to get through Dr. Prestipino. Another thing that Hudson always promotes, this year I administer AP exams to students from Scarsdale's because their district would not administer an AP exam for them. They have to be young men of color, and they challenge the exam. So I just want to give a little more breadth of knowledge when it comes to AP, because sometimes, and I say this with data, data is not impervious to subjectivity. And we have to think about that when we look at data, because AP is a little bit different. So I just want to give more clarification about that, being the AP coordinator.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
I'm not sure.
Malachi.
I couldn't read your hand.
Malachi Walker. How you doing? I came completely unprepared today. I really just heard about this today. But, you know, just hearing, you know, what everybody's talking about, seeing the graph, which is a beautiful display. I'd like to really commend, what's your name? I'm sorry, the teacher.
Oh, me?
Yes.
Oh, you don't remember me?
You know what?
I love Peter. You're with me. Jen Daly.
Jen Daly, yes, yes. Ms. Daly, I'm so sorry, yes. But thank you for that, just a display of, you know, just, you know, we gotta look at, you know, how to, yeah, just, you know, all this testing is, it's necessary, it's needed, we understand, but, you know, if we can look at, you know, just a different area, different angle of complimenting these kids on, you know, their achievements and what they could do. I really enjoyed what you said. But you know, I don't have any kids in the school district right now. My daughter's grown. She's, you know, out of school. My 14-year-old is out of the district right now. So, you know, I have a ton of nephews, nieces, cousins in this school. But I'm looking at, you know, certain reasons that the grades are low, you know, and it just dawned on me. You know, I get a lot of kids come to me all the time. I work with kids every day. Some of the, you know, the high school kids, and it's a very personable conversation to have with a lot of these kids. And something that dawned on me that one of my nephews came to me and he just said, you know, I'm just talking to him about the school. I'm talking to him about, you know, the levels and you know, what can be done differently. And he said, you know what, Uncle Mal, he said, if I was to have a relationship with, you know, some of these students, you know, I would do better. And that just came from my nephew's mouth. So I'm just thinking, like, you know, how many kids are feeling like, you know, if they could trust people, if they can trust, you know, some of the teachers, or if some of the teachers can actually, you know, not just, and I'm not going to say teachers are here just for paychecks, and that's sort of, I'm not going there, but I think if they can establish just a better communication, a better relationship with these kids, I think we will see a lot more potential from these kids. Because I think what the kids do is they just sort of shut down if they don't have an individual that they can actually come up to and speak to about certain subjects and things that the low grades, I think some of it is, you know, the kids are just not applying themselves because they don't feel comfortable in doing it. I think they need, you know, a surrounding. I think they need, you know, a family of teachers finding out the root of what's going on with their situation. Maybe sitting down, finding out, hey, you know, did you eat today? You know, what's going on? I mean, if you can have a personal relationship where you get in the student talking about what's going on in their home, you know how many barriers that would break? Right. That is like essential. And I'm telling you, coming from Hudson, myself, being one of these troubled kids, being one of these kids that, you know, had hard time just doing things, And me, in class, I'm trying to be, Mr. Funny Man, trying to deflect. But, all in all, I'm it's a cry for help from me. So I think we need to really look at, just different avenues and different ways before we lash out and, at some of these, performances. Even from the teachers, somebody said, again, I think it was you, Ms. Daly, about the about the teachers feeling like, oh, it's my fault. But again, I don't think it's the teacher's fault. But where could we, come together to find out, not being standoffish and just ignoring certain things, but let's communicate with each other. Let's communicate with the kids. Let's communicate with, each other, because these are our kids. We have to find a way to, break down these strongholds from, the things that's, lacking from the kids in education. So
Thank you.
I know it's too much time. I went way over. I'm sorry.
I don't have an annual list. Would you at least, with an older guy, say something briefly?
There's another session in 2 minutes. If you want to sign the piece of paper, we can get you up there.
When do I sign up?
It helps us respond to you if it's needed.
Superintendent's update? Yes.
Good evening, everyone. For my superintendent's report tonight, I'm going to start off with a video.
This is a different cafeteria.
Yes, absolutely. We've made a lot of changes. We got all new furniture this year. We have the high top tables as well as the soft seating booths that the students can choose from.
And you don't even call it a cafeteria.
No, it's our Hudson Hawk Cafe. I feel like the students almost feel like they're older when they're in here. So they have more of a higher education, dining hall type experience, and it makes them feel more respected and treated like they're older than they actually are, which makes them actually behave like they're older than they are.
Yeah, I'm very happy with it. I get a lot of positive feedback from the kids about the cafeteria and the food they have this year. It looks great. Like, yeah, I never used to eat that junk. It came from the hallway. I didn't feel good about it. They said they like the choices, that they have more choices.
It's better proportions and it just tastes better.
first
as
glance.
you can see, this is my why. This is when they're happy students, students are learning. And this video makes my heart happy. This is why I am here every day, to focus on our students and their learning, their happiness, and their success. So on the 2nd of October, it was National Custodian Appreciation Day, and we are deeply grateful for the hard work. As you can see, our buildings and grounds are great. Everything is clean. As soon as we find out that something is not working, our guys are on it, and ladies, and they get it done. So as you can see, they pay attention to cleaning, deep cleaning. Our environments are safe and they're outstanding. October is also National Principals Month. And the district, we want to just express our heartfelt gratitude to all of our principals who lead our schools and their vision and leadership that's helping to move us forward. So next we have our students reacting to the Blue Hawk Cafe.
I think the atmosphere's a lot better, it's a lot more friendlier, more kids stay here for lunchtime.
I think it's great. I like it.
I really love the carpet.
The chairs and the tables are more comfortable.
How's it taste?
The homecoming happens, and as you can see on the 27th, the homecoming festivities were held. The senior student athletes were recognized. The homecoming court king and queen were announced and honored. And then shortly after that, the Hudson Blue Hawks football team played against Cohoes. And a few students, photojournalists, captured wonderful memories with their cameras. So I want to just thank all of our students, faculty, and staff for their efforts, because homecoming was a great success. MCSES students went to the Capital Region Math Counting Meet. So as you can see, the 5th grade students competed, and their class was chosen as Math Counting B winners. And the winners went to the Capital Region in Albany on 10-2, and the 5th graders were Dominic, Lennox, and Viviana. And then in addition, all students in grades 3 through 5 were able to see the world-renowned human calculator, Scott Flansburgh, perform his mathematical magic on Friday, 9/27. So there's a picture of our students with Mr. Flansburgh. So I want to say again, everything you saw earlier, this is my why. This is why I'm here. Our students are happy, and when our students are happy, they're learning. And at this time, I'd like Dr. Pressey to come up. We are exploring extended day opportunities for our students, which we'll be extending on Saturdays. And I'd like for Dr. Pressey, who is our extended day or after-school coordinator, to come up and tell you about a wonderful STEM pilot program that we'll be having for our students on Saturday.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm excited about this program that we're going to launch. It's our Saturday STEM program, and it's called the Flying Classroom. The gentleman who developed this is pretty awesome. At the age of 23, he earned the record for being the youngest person and first African-American pilot to fly solo around the world. At the age of 24, he challenged kids from failing inner city schools to build an airplane, and then he flew it successfully. At 28 years old, he became a National Geographic explorer, and at 30, he set off his flight around the world and filmed expeditions, as he solved real-world STEM problems. I will be passing this to the board so you can see. Let's talk about this. Of course, we always build everything on the 6 keys for school improvement. They were read earlier, so I won't belabor and read them again. Diversity, equity, and inclusion mission statement. This is our mission statement for the DEI department. At the Hudson City School District, our mission is to support our diverse student body by providing each student with opportunity and access to a high-quality, rigorous, equitable education in welcoming and affirming inclusive environments where students can develop the 21st century skills needed to thrive in a global society, college, career, and life. So the New York State Education Department Office of the Attorney General and Commissioner of Education put out a statement, and basically they're talking about how students should have access and opportunity regardless of their demographical markers. So what is this? What is this flying classroom? Well, there are 180 minutes, 3 hours of wonderful what they call expeditions, which are various activities. I will be showing you what those activities are. Each student will receive a box, and there are only a certain number of students because this is a pilot, and I'll explain that a little later. But each module is aligned to the next generation standards. So I'm going to show you an example so you know what that looks like. And then students, they will learn about a specific topic. They will create something related to the topic, and they will present it before their peers at the end of the session. Why? Why are we doing this? Because of equity, making sure that we're being fair across the board, making sure that every child has access and opportunity. We'll unpack that in a moment. MC Smith does offer some STEM activities for students, but our junior high and high schools do not. So that's why it's really important. And if you look at our Hudson City School District policy on diversity, equity, and inclusion, again, we're talking about the importance of ensuring our diverse student population has access and opportunity. Okay, I'll just do it from here. So I wanted to point out a couple of things. Okay, it showed up on mine. When you get a moment, feel free to look at the policy. And basically, it says all children deserve to have equal access to opportunity regardless of the color of their skin, their race, ethnicity, nationality, perceived or actual immigration status, language preference, religion, sexual orientation, gender, socioeconomic circumstance, or disability. So it goes on to explain why this is important. Equity means fair treatment for everyone. Well, when will this be offered? I'm glad you asked. There will be 16 what we call expeditions or sessions where students will have activities, STEM activities. Our kickoff will be on the 26th. A posting will go up, we're going to interview candidates, and we'll have a 1-hour training with the vice president of this company, and then we're going to get started. Here is the schedule. From 8:30 to 1, the staff will be present, and the students from like 9:30 to 12:30, we will be providing a lunch. Who? Well, we'll have 56 students from the junior high and high schools. Look at the criteria. Remember what I just talked about? This is our demographic.
We have American Indian, African American or Black. We have Pacific Islander, Asian, Hispanic, multicultural, and white. We also have students with IEPs, Ls or ENL students, and non-binary students. That means we are taking into consideration every one of the demographical markers that represent our district. So we will choose students who represent each of these areas. That's how we make sure that this is an equitable opportunity. Where there will be 2 designated classrooms in the junior high and 2 designated classrooms in the high school. What kind of activities will the students engage in? Oh, I'm glad you asked. It shows up on my screen, so she'll make it happen. In the meantime, the students will receive a box. Inside of that box, there will be a folder. Inside of that folder, they will have engagement cards. They will have a little packet. Within this packet is information such as, let's say they're looking at urban farming. They will receive information about urban farming. They're going to have a hashtag challenge, and then they're going to learn about urban farming. Then they're going to work on an activity, take notes, and then they'll be presenting the information. Oh, and here is an example of one of the activities for urban farming. There are 4 sessions. I told you there are 16 total expeditions in 4 sessions. In each session, there are 4 activities, STEM activities they will work on. Look at some of these wonderful things. Arts, aquaponics, urban farming, bees, the need for pollination, bionic beef, climate change, animal behaviors, bats, animal conservation, lionfish, sustainable cities, food waste. We're going to look at pythons, and we're going to look at, there's a couple more down here, let's see. Yes, altitude, jellyfish. What's going to be remarkable is to tie this absolutely wonderful experience into going to the Science Center or to the zoo and learn about these animals also. So we're going to be doing some wonderful things with this information, not just sitting in the classroom making things, but let's tie it into real world, or let's tie it into history. Learning about glaciers, well, go to the museum, you'll learn a ton, or go to the Science Center and you'll learn a ton. So it's really about making the real world connections. Okay, I'm almost finished here. And let's look at a module and how it is, all right, based on next generation standards. Yep. All right, so I'm going to need you for this piece. Let's say we're looking at aquaponics. I'm going to show you a middle school next gen standard, and thank you. For example, here's a next gen standard for aquaponics. Construct a scientific explanation based on evidence for how environment and the genetic factors influence the growth of organisms. And another one, define the criteria and constraints of a design problem. What's wonderful about these activities is they really stimulate higher order thinking skills, which are definitely needed. And so with sufficient precision to ensure a successful solution, taking into account relevant scientific principles and potential impacts on people and the natural environment that may limit possible solutions. So here we are, next gen standard, challenge-based learning. Guess what? Students are going to be challenged to use lessons from the session to create a portable aquaponics system that can be used in different settings. Now we're going to look at how instruction will be delivered. Because this is a virtual program, we will have 4 classrooms with 15 students each in the classroom. We will have virtual teachers, 1 virtual teacher per class. And the virtual teachers have the prepared lesson plans. So what they're going to do is they're going to go step by step by step with the students. The students will have their kits and they will follow along. Now, there needs to be at least a teacher and an aide, or a TA and an aide, or a teacher and a TA in each room, just to make sure that the students are engaged, or if they need any help, they're there. What's great about this is project-based learning, hands-on. Students excited about getting their hands in there, making things, looking at how they work, being able to think about what their use is for and how it impacts their environment around them. This is good stuff. So, after the teachers go through the steps with the students, they make whatever they're going to make, and guess what? At the end, they present it. Each student will have an opportunity to present to their peers. So that's how instruction will be delivered. And I hope you've enjoyed this. I'm pretty excited about it. As a matter of fact, super excited, because we're providing opportunities for students, 1 opportunity at a time. And some students learn best when they have hands-on activities. So, looking forward to it. Thank you so much for your time and attention.
Okay, consensus agenda. I'd like to make a motion to approve consensus agenda items A through I.
Second?
All in favor? Tracy, public forum. Stay on side of.
Ms. Orbensky?
All right, so I'd like to talk about something that our school district does really well, and that would be the arts. And I know that so far we've had 2 speakers speak on behalf of the arts, both the drama person from Chatham, speaking up for our school district's drama club, and an art club from the junior high. But a lot of our students are engaged either in band or art classes, and I think if we do want to compare to maybe a similar demographic school or something, our arts definitely set us apart. I know that I've had tremendous success and great time with our band programs. I've played in the pit band for our drama musical the past 2 years, and I just want to emphasize the fact that our district does arts very well. And something I'd like to point out is that it's not one of the 6 pillars of our district, but data collection is, or some sort of data pillar. But I think that may want to be reevaluated, because we do arts very well here in Hudson and Hudson's Goody Switchers. Thank you.
Shelley Evans?
Good evening, all. First of all, let me say I'm a friend of education. I've taught here for years. I was summer school principal, and et cetera, Board of Education, president for 1 year, VP for 1 year. So I came here out of curiosity and knowing Mr. Kinney and so on. I wanted to find out precisely what your programs are. And I must say, I'm very impressed with your distillation of the facts relative to the parameters that you set out with the learning and so on. I thought to myself, as I'm sitting here, what are the main lessons I should get out of this thing? The first one, I guess, is don't use too many of those presentations. They're hard to see back here, and so on. And I also want to thank the lady. I'm not sure if she's still here or not. The teacher who gave that presentation. There you are. I see you. I hear what you're saying, and I agree with everything you said. But anyway, what I wanted to basically come away with here was that the teachers, the resources you have here, are the most important ones are your teachers. Without them, you've got nothing, and you shouldn't forget that. And you shouldn't forget that these kids, when these kids come here, their history, educational history, will be founded in what they do in kindergarten, first and second grade. And I know from personal experience, because I have a grandchild who had suffered in kindergarten with the lack of self-esteem, because he couldn't read well, couldn't do anything like that. And it was a nuisance for him. So I'm sure that in my experience, and I started teaching here, by the way, in '67, so I'm probably older than most of you people here. At any rate, and I retired in '94, so I've been out in this quite a bit. But some things haven't changed, and that's one of them, is that you've got to prevent the kids from falling through the cracks. And you've got to do it early on, and you've got to have a lot of age. And that was one of the major problems that we always tried to address. And we had trouble because age, when I taught, the concept was, well, they're too expensive, we don't want to have them here, we don't need them. Well, that's wrong. You need them, you should have them, whatever the expense is, within reason. The other thing is taking the kids, when I went to school, I went to Plattsburgh, for those of you who went to the state system. And we were taught that you take the kids where they are and take them as far as you can. Don't apply any phony standards that they can't meet. Like when I was teaching, they said, oh, every kid should be able to pass the Regents. Yeah, if you kept them in school for 5 more years at the grade level, he might make it. But if a kid can't do that, you better recognize that and deal with it realistically as best you can. And that's the important thing, and I'm not sure I heard that tonight.
That's good.
Maybe I did, but I didn't come across.
I'm sorry.
The other thing I think is kind of interesting, when I was a board president, the newspaper called me up and said, come on down for an interview. We want to talk about the difference, the gap between white and black achievement. So I went down there, and there were 4 or 5 people sitting there, and they were very hostile to me. You could just see it when I walked in, This is not going to be a fun interview. At any rate, they kept saying, well, there's a big gap here. How do you explain it? Well, I don't have all the answers. So I said to them, this is a Register Star when they published in the city here. How many black people do you have working in your building? And they looked at me, and they didn't know what to say. And I said, do you have anybody in management? No. Middle management? No. Reporters? No. Anybody here at all? Yeah, we got one black guy in the newsroom doing the presses and all that kind of stuff. So there's your problem. These kids who get out of here have to have expectations that if they put their effort and work in here and work hard, they're going to be able to succeed in society. And that's, I think, is one of the breakdowns that I look around here at the minority groups, and I think you guys have succeeded because society has changed somewhat, but not enough. So anyway, I want to thank you for the effort that you put into this. I also want to just mention again about the teachers. I was summer school principal. I was assistant principal at John L. Evans for a year. The summer school was quite an experience. When Mrs. or Dr., I'm not sure, Prestopino was here, I saw an article in the paper about starting summer school. And I called her up, and I called the superintendent, I'm sorry, at the time. But anyway, she called me back and said, we've never done that before. I said, yeah, you have. I was principal of summer school in '88, '89. So the background and the history that you guys had at the time was incomplete. And so I'm saying, I'm looking back to my start in '66. My first job was kindergarten. I'm sorry, make that first grade, half a year. A lady was expecting. And I went in there and going, what the hell am I doing here? I don't know what I'm doing here, And I had one little girl who was autistic, but we had no name for her. She never said a word. I'd give her a hug. She'd never respond. I had a little boy who was in the 3rd grade reading level. And here I'm being told, well, you got to deal with all these kids and all in between. it's tough to do it if you're a teacher, and especially if you have no A's, okay? And then if you have unrealistic expectations about, well, here, I looked at the evaluation form, oh, my God, who created this monster? This is terrible. The teachers are your best talent, nurture them, let them grow, help them out. Now, a quick word about the evaluation, just then I'll sit down and shut up.
Sir, it's, each speaker's
3 minutes, can I get 30 seconds more? Okay.
One more thing.
Okay, we went to a conference in Albany on evaluation, 6 or 7 school districts. And we sat down and tried to figure out what's the best way to improve teacher performance. The only thing they agreed upon was that the present observation system doesn't improve teacher performance at all. It's a rating system, whether you're good enough or not good enough, okay? So what we tried to do, and it didn't succeed totally because we got to work it out more, was let the teachers devise their own system, not report it to the principal, but if you've got a problem, and I did, I always hated to do classroom decorations and bulletin boards, I hated it. So I went to find somebody else who could do it. And it was between me and that lady, and that was it. Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Wayne Kenny?
Evening. I've been writing stuff down quick tonight, so I hope you'll indulge me a little bit if I'm a little over, because I want to add to the data presentation and hopefully shed some light on some of the things. First, what was missing from the data presentation was the high school college classes we offer, which there are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 college classes we offer the students are in. And again, when you break that down, it's kind of even between the different subgroups. I don't want to go into it, but if you'd like the data. You also have to keep in mind when a high school schedule is completely different monster than when you schedule junior high, elementary. Kids don't always get what they want. Okay? We taught 2 Regents Earth Science classes last year in the junior high as honor classes. We didn't offer 2 this year at the high school. I have an African American student sitting in a regular biology class right now that should have been in the honors because he passed the class, passed the Regents, is very smart, but because of what he chose for electives, the honors class doesn't fit in. So a lot of times you got to take a grain of salt with the number of kids that are in AP college classes. It's going to depend on what's being offered, when it's offered, if it's going to fit into their schedules. As far as the presentation with the high school scores increasing, that kind of emphasizes my point from last meeting. There's no accountability on the students until they get to high school for the majority of them. They're just getting passed along, as I told you last time. But when they get here, they have to now they have to take tests, they have to pass them. We get freshmen in every year and we say, you're going to have to take a Regents exam. They go, well, it's a state test, I can opt out. Not anymore. You got to take Regencies, you need to pass them. The reason geometry and earth science are down, when they looked at those numbers, not everybody from living environment goes into earth science. A lot of the kids that go into earth science and geology already know they've passed 1 Regents exam and that's all they need to graduate. So they just focus on passing the class. They don't focus on passing another test. They're not seeing the importance of that score on their college transcript, even though we tell them. A bigger problem right now is probably the chronic absenteeism. In case you haven't seen the news lately, that's a big thing across the state. Chronic absenteeism has increased across the state. It's increased here. I have today was the 25th day of class. I have a kid who's already missed 19 days. That's 10% of the class. He's probably done. I hate to say that. But that's a reality we need to face. Why are the kids not here? Why are they not going to class? And the answer cannot continue to be, well, they don't like the teachers or they don't like the class. They need to be there. One last thing. I agree with Lakia about diversity in the district. I agree with her, and I've said this before. Where I grew up, not a lot of diversity. Big change when I came here 25 years ago. The African American students, the Asian students, they've taught me a lot more about their cultures and backgrounds than I ever learned in high school global studies. which I've always felt was important. I've enjoyed that over the years. But again, that diversity is going to change from year to year and class to class, which is also going to affect the numbers in your data. So you need to keep that in mind. Thank you. Thanks
Thank you, everybody.
Upcoming important dates. October 22nd, 2024, Policy Committee meeting, 5 to 6, High School Library. October 22nd, 2024, Board of Education meeting, High School Library, 6 p.m. November 5th, 2024, Board of Education meeting, High School Library. At this time, we do have a need for executive session for the purpose of reviewing the employment history of particular person or persons. And no further business after this. Thank you.
Thank you again. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Is someone making a motion to go?
Make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.